All right, we're live. Let me know where you're watching from. Welcome to our new schedule where we move from the noon schedule and we now live stream at 5 p.m. ADT. So today we're going to be covering three major stories. The first story is that the Nobel Peace Prize wasn't given to Donald Trump eventually. I said it yesterday and the day before that I didn't think that they would give Donald Trump the Nobel Prize. And we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about ANTIFA denying being a terrorist organization while carrying out terrorist organization. Imagine sending out a message to all of their supporters or members telling them to come out tomorrow with lasers to attempt to bring down a federal helicopter. All right. So that ship has sailed. Antifa is long past claiming that they aren't a terrorist organization. And then we're also going to talk about LETITIA James. LETITIA James has been in the news. And of course, her friends in Congress and in the media have also been in the news, running cover for her and trying to make it look like she's being persecuted. The justice system is being weaponized. Boo-hoo. We watched as she and her friends and her lackeys went after President Trump and his family, and everybody was fine. Nothing to see here, folks. It's just the guy we don't like being indicted. Okay, so we're going to talk about that very quickly. So in this hour, because I'm going to try to keep this within an hour, and it's going to be a fast release. I don't want to stretch it out and tire you guys out. It's Friday and you guys need to spend time with your families. We're going to jump into the story. Now, I'm going to play a few minutes of this. Okay, I'm not going to play this anymore. I'm just going to go straight into the story. I was hoping to play this interview by Reagan, but I don't want us to take time. There's so much to cover. I will do this next time unless you guys vote to have me play this footage by Reagan, because he said so many things that we're seeing today. But we're going to start out with this coverage by Victor Davis Hansen, okay? And he wants to, there's a few things that I want to open up with, because when you watch the way the media covers things like Antifa and the riots and so on, there's a reason why they do this. So we're going to listen to him, say a few things, then go on to the next footage. We're starting out with Antifa, guys. We're starting out with Antifa. Antifa has been in the news recently, and they've been busy. The organization, the ideology that isn't an organization that is acting like an organization has been very busy. Tomorrow they have something planned, but let's jump into this footage.
In 1963, George Wallace said, "Alabama is a world to itself. It has unique customs and traditions and history that the federal government does not understand. So the federal government cannot come into our state and tell us that we have to give civil rights protections to African Americans who want to attend the University of Alabama. So I, Governor Wallace, will stand in the door and force people who are black out." And what happened? The Kennedy administration said, "No, this is an 1861, Governor Wallace. I'm sorry. You do not have the right, moral or actual, to refuse a federal mandate. And all men are created equal, and we're going to enforce that." And so what John F. Kennedy did, and Bobby Kennedy as Attorney General, they federalized the Alabama National Guard, and they brought in U.S. troops, and they forced George Wallace to step aside and to accept people according to the laws of the United States of America. So I would like to remind the left, you're on the side of George Wallace resisting federal law, and ICE that you despise is on the right side of history, trying to enforce laws that have been broken for the protection of all citizens in this United States, including those in Chicago and including those in Portland who are having their civil rights endangered if they live next to an ICE facility or if they're an ICE agent in general.
Yep. So his statements are really very poignant. Okay. In 1963, you had a Democrat governor standing in the way of federal law, claiming that that he was going to keep segregation in public schools going. That was a Democrat. The same Democrats that want to act like they are the moral authority on civil rights. They are the ones that ensure that the Jim Crow laws stayed on the books. They're the ones that kept all of the segregation and racism going. And suddenly they rebranded. They memory hold all of their activities with the KKK. They were the patron party of the KKK. And eventually, over the years, they've successfully rebranded themselves to be the party of love and compassion. It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking to see the hypocrisy play out in real time. But we're watching. We're watching and we're calling it out. So we have Gavin Newsom and Governor Pritzker. We have Mayor Brandon Johnson, all of whom have openly defied the federal government and ICE law enforcement. All right. Now we're going to dive into the next footage, okay? Now, Antifa claims that they are not a terror organization. Now, before I read this story, all right, excuse me. I had some conflicts before I went live, so I'm still burping. Antifa claims that it isn't an organization, yet it acts like an organization. It says that it's not a terrorist organization, yet it is a terrorist organization because tomorrow they're planning to bring down a federal helicopter, okay, and it's meant to serve as a distraction to something else that you're doing. This should cover that story. You're going to hear it from Andy No. And we have a professor at Rutgers University is coming up who says he's meant to be the expert, the resident expert on Antifa, who says he's not a member of Antifa, but the news coverage buries the lead on his connection to Antifa. We're going to look at that. Look, when these people open their mouths to speak, I'm getting so used to finding out that everything they say is a lie. So let's listen to Andy No's. He's breaking this report, and let's listen to it.
So the wall of moms was at the front. These were the human body shields, and that's where all the cameras would face them. Behind them would be the people in the black bloc who would throw the projectile weapons. And they brought things that were meant to look not very dangerous, like a water bottle. Well, the water bottles were frozen. What do you think happens when that's thrown at somebody's head with force? They had lasers. So it looked like, oh, cool, a laser light show. No, when you have 50 people directing these lasers at the eyes of an individual officer, you get injuries that can damage the eye permanently.
Look at that.
There were dozens of federal agents whose eyes were injured. And on the laser subject right now, an Antifa blog in Portland has put out flyers and put out posts online calling for their comrades to try to aim all their lasers at the pilot that flies the DHS helicopter over the ICE facility.
Are these like the Blackhawks over the...
Yes, they're trying to cause a crash, kill people. So they're using some of the tactics they learned before. They don't have as many people, but they have so much experience, and they're emboldened because they weren't held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the frontline moms. I mean, Washington Post, wall of moms inspired by Portland protesters face off intense protest in Portland. It's like that they glorified these frontline moms, and it's like, yeah, you're putting lipstick on a pig, basically.
So Antifa routinely uses lasers whenever they're doing these protests, pointing them at law enforcement in the attempt to injure them seriously. And now they have a plan to come out tomorrow with the same lasers in order to try to blind the pilot of the Black Hawk that circles the ICE facility in order to bring it down and kill people. And yet, when President Trump designated them a terrorist organization, everyone was up in arms. How can you designate an ideology a terrorist organization while they're doing terrorist things? The intention of organizations like this, and they learned from the weakness of European countries and the weakness of Democrat leaders, is that when you do bad things long enough and you skirt the law long enough, it becomes normalized and they give you what you want, right? It's called terrorism. And one of the things that we've always known, at least in the movies, about terrorism is that the American government doesn't negotiate with terrorism. Now, let me know in the chat. The chat is on, all right? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Please like and subscribe, share the video, help us. The next video, here's Benny Johnson. Now, when I say that Antifa is the militant arm of the Democrat Party, I mean it. And many people, I had Jennifer on the backup channel. She's one of the mods on the backup channel. She says that she's been telling people this for a long time, that Antifa essentially is the Nazi brown shirts. And I was like, I've been saying this, and like when I first said it, I felt like I was the only one who had noticed this pattern. But she said it and I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. So here's Benny Johnson, all right? He's giving his account because these guys routinely threaten the lives of people they don't agree with. And then they come out to say, we're just protesting, we're a peaceful organization. The fascist is trying to clamp down on us because our name is anti-fascist. And that's the thing you need to learn about people who are this way, who are leftists. They've learned how to use words against people who would move against them to shut them down. So Antifa preemptively calls themselves anti-fascist, but they are the ones enforcing fascist practices. Like I said, the black shirts of Mussolini, that's Antifa. The brown shirts of Hitler, that's Antifa. It's the same pattern. They use terror and intimidation to push their agenda until they take over the government. That's how they work. One of the live streams, we're going to watch a video on the origins of the brown shirts of Hitler. We're going to watch it, and we'll see how much we can see and discuss it, because the techniques and the strategies are just the same thing. So let's listen to Benny Johnson.
The individual who wrote me described why he wanted me dead. I was a white, cis, Christian Trump supporter. They described in great detail how I would be killed in an open field, just like Charlie, how much blood would come out of my head and neck when it was blown off. This individual described orphaning my 4 beautiful children and widowing my wife with great joy. You might want to say another left-wing radical, another extremist. And to that, I would like to direct your attention to the state of Virginia, where Democrats have nominated and are about to vote for the chief law enforcement officer in that state, a man who has done the exact same thing. An individual who's calling for the assassination by bullets of Republicans that he disagrees with. The killing of their children. The slaughtering of, as he says, little fascists. Are my 4 innocent, beautiful children little fascists? Violence has been mainstreamed by the Democrat Party. It is not extremist, it is mainstream. And we need a moment of reckoning here. This has to stop. This cycle must end. Is any Democrat courageous enough to disavow violence?
I don't think they are, because it's going to cost them votes. It will cost them votes. Antifa is the militant arm of the Democrat Party. All right? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I hope they found the guy that threatened Benny Johnson's life and his family, because for a long time, conservatives have been saying that the rhetoric and the violence coming from the left, the soft on organizations like Antifa, was the dangerous thing and a slippery slope. And they said, you guys are simply being conspiracy theorists. And then Charlie Kirk happened. Do you know that now Charlie Kirk has become a verb on the lips of leftists? They walk up to conservatives and they ask, do you want to be Charlie Kirked? It has become a verb. Violence on the left has become mainstream. And speaking of mainstream, here's a professor at Rutgers University. His name is Mark Bray. And I'm going to cover this story. I'm just going to give you the highlights. Antifa expert. I don't know why a university should have a course on Antifa. This man teaches about Antifa. He's written a book on Antifa. We're going to read. It's called the Antifa. It's called Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. All right. I'm going to just speed through this article. I'll give you the highlights. Mark Bray, an expert on anti-fascist groups who teaches at Rutgers University, says he is fleeing with his family to Spain after getting death threats amid a campaign by the campus chapter of Turning Point USA and other conservative groups to get him fired. Now he's the victim. He's the one who teaches the virtue of anti-fascist groups. He wrote a book. His sentiment towards Antifa isn't a bad sentiment. It's a good one. At the top news report is this innocent academic is being persecuted by Turning Point and other conservative groups. They want him to be fired. And that's what Associated Press is doing. They front load the outrage to paint you, common sense people out there who want to live good lives with their kids, as bad people for wanting people who teach horrible ideology in universities to be fired. Mark Bray, an assistant professor of history, said Thursday that he decided to make the move out of concern for his family's safety after being falsely labeled as a member of Antifa, a term used to describe far-left activist groups that oppose fascism. The second thing they front load is they're lying about this guy. That's what Associated Press is doing. Now, do you know that's a strategy? It's called burying the lead. They front load the claim of the person they are running cover for, but they are legally obligated to print the truth, so they bury the truth somewhere in the article. I'm going to come back to this. He says he has been falsely labeled as a member of Antifa. Let's scroll down and see why he's being labeled a member of Antifa. It's not going to surprise you. It's not going to surprise you why. All right. Let's see. What does he do with the earnings from his book? All right. Although Bray says he is not a member of any Antifa groups, which conservatives argue are responsible for political violence, you see the way they're navigating this, he has donated half of the proceeds from his book to a legal defense fund for people arrested while practicing fascism. All right, so I'm not a member of Antifa, but half my proceeds, now Christians believe in tithing. Tithing is 10%. This guy gives, he out tithes Christians. He gives 50% of everything he makes from this book, he gives to the Legal Defense Fund for people protesting for people who are arrested while protesting fascism. All right, so he's not a member of Antifa, but Antifa is known to want to be out there protesting what? Fascism. So essentially, he gives 50% of his earnings to Antifa. Some people complain that the church gets too much money. 10% is too much money. This guy he's giving 50% to Antifa, and he claims he's not a member of Antifa. So they bury the lead, trying to make it look like the people who are screaming out, because when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, people like him did not care that a man was slaughtered in front of his wife and children. People like him did not care. They celebrated it. And when conservatives call out and say, this is wrong, this man should not be teaching at this school, he begins to play the victim. And then Associated Press and other outlets, and they all have the same headlines. I could show you the headlines. They all have the same headlines. All right. So these are the headlines from the left. Okay. It's too much. I'm going to read the headlines from the left. Okay. Death threats against US researchers. Antifa historians flee from the USA to Spain. Antifa expert at Rutgers University says he is moving to Spain because of death threats. Disappeared. Professor fleeing MAGA alarmed as flight reservations miraculously cancelled or mysteriously cancelled. Historian Mark Bray. All of these titles paint him as the victim. All of them. No surprise there. And they're all left-leaning. So this is what's going on out there in the mainstream. Violence has become mainstream for the Democrat Party. All right. Let me know what you think of this story, because I saw the story and I was like, how come only left-leaning media is covering it? Because the man will not give an interview to conservative media. They know what they're doing. They push out the messaging only on left-leaning platforms. There's no evidence that he has experienced violence. He's only saying that his life has been threatened. And you know what? The left-leaning outlets will say, yeah, we believe you, and we'll print it out. His life is being threatened. Now he has to work remotely from Spain with his family. His wife is also a professor, by the way. They move to Spain and stay there and remotely teach anti-fascism. What do you think of this story? I mean, guys, tell me what you think. All right? Because as far as I'm concerned, I have concerns about sending my kids to college. I'll be honestly true. I'll be truthful about it. Some students involved in the Rutgers chapter of Turning Point USA, the political group founded by Charlie Kirk, began circulating an online petition that claimed, you see, they say that it's a claim. That claim Bray was an outspoken, well-known Antifa member. The man gives 50% of his book revenue. That's what members do. And referred to him as Dr. Antifa because he's a specialist in anti-fascism, in Antifa, while calling for his dismissal. So I don't know about you, but there's a lot of this going on, and there are people who are mainstream who are doing the same thing. They are softening the impression of organizations like Antifa, and they want to make it appear like they are a nice group protesting anti-fascism. Why would you be against someone protesting anti-fascism? They want to make it look like it's an innocuous, innocent activity, while they do the things that Andy No just mentioned that they do routinely during their protests, and it is well organized. You have the people in front who aren't armed, who don't have anything. They look like peaceful protesters, while the violent ones are behind them. They use them as a human shield. Where have we seen that before? Oh, there's this terrorist organization called Hamas. I'm talking too much. I'm talking too much. But when you see this, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. If you want to continue shutting your eyes and blocking your ears and pretending like the world hasn't changed, then you can be my guest. Send your kid to Rutgers University and let him go learn anti-fascism under Dr. Bray. But things have changed, okay? The world has changed. Sadly, it's not the world I grew up in. Now, there's been some conversation around the funding. How does Antifa get funded? I said there's a chunk to discuss about Antifa. How does Antifa get funded? If Antifa is just an organization, how is it that they organize? They have the same dress code. They have the same modus operandi. The gear, the signs that they carry look like they are printed from the same shop. It's centrally designed, centrally organized. Their tactics are centrally, like they look the same city to city. Wherever they operate, they look the same. How is an ideology suddenly so organized? Because it is an organization. And organizations run on money. So let's watch this and learn about the money trail.
And then you have this, funding sources. Now, this is interesting. Again, who do you write your check to? This is split between nonprofits and foundations, also crowdfunding sources. Now, I already mentioned the Tides Foundation, one of the darkest of the dark left-wing radical money funnels on the planet. Who knows all the trails that lead back to Tides? But just for starters, let's look at these. Tides Foundation funds an organization called Alliance for Global Justice. Money from here. They refunnel money to groups like Refuse Fascism. They also give to the National Lawyers Guild, over $1 million from 2018 to 2019 alone. Are you going to write a check for $1 million to a leaderless group that has no organization at all and just say, yeah, you guys know what to do with it? Who knows what to do with it? This is how the radical left-wing money trail operates. It's designed to be opaque. It's designed to be confusing and disappear. But the connections are all there. So why haven't we done anything about it up until now? Okay, up next, who else but George Soros' spooky dudes, Open Society Foundation. They also fund the Alliance for Global Justice. They also are with the ANTIFA support groups. The charitable funding sources are legion for just that one. Then you have Fidelity Investments. Where do you have your money invested? Fidelity Investments Charitable Gift Fund. They donate to the National Lawyers Guild. Also, Schwab Charitable Fund. Boy, if I had my money in Schwab, or Fidelity, I don't know if I would have it. They're giving to the people who are supporting these people. I mean, I could go on, and we haven't even gotten to the crowdfunding platforms. You have ActBlue and Patreon. You have Fundraiser, the
Patreon
network. Then you have book sales. Books.
Where have we heard that before? Mark Bray, book sales.
Oh yeah, book sales, like the college professor that produced the Antifa handbook.
We just talked about him.
Look, I'm not accusing anyone here. I'm just saying this is pretty much off the top of my head. I'm just showing the connections that have a very strong odor attached to them. And I've followed these people long enough to know this is the way it works. This one chalkboard alone is enough for the Trump administration just to start. I mean, just start. And they are. And it should be enough alone just to debunk the ridiculous notion. Just the question, who are you writing checks to? $1 million check. Who's cashing it? What bank? Where is this happening? Schwab is giving to just street kids who, what? It's ridiculous to believe that. Ridiculous. Antifa now has been designated as a terrorist organization. It is about time. And it is time to turn over all of the stones. I am proud to say that after the first of the year, we're turning over not just the little stones, we're turning over the big boulders as well. We will show you in an epic special much, much more on this.
Yeah, so that is now when you have all of these names that he called, giving money to Antifa, what does it say about these organizations? We've been talking about people like Charles Schwab and George Soros. We've been talking about them for years. And whenever these names are mentioned, it's like talking about Bigfoot. If you mention this in normie circles, a normie is someone who doesn't spend time looking at all of these stories. It's almost like you're talking about Bigfoot. Isn't Charles Schwab the guy who organized the World Economic Forum? Isn't that supposed to be something to help the world? And if you don't dig deeper, and the issue with people who are regular people, the regular guy on the street, is that everyone is busy trying to solve their problems. Everyone is busy just trying to eat. So no one is going to spend their time going down these rabbit holes and discovering the connections. And so the reason why channels like mine and others out there do what we do to pull up these stories and kind of give it to you in bits and chunks is to wake you up to what's going on. The likes of Alex Jones, if you listen to Alex Jones, you get terrified about everything, because it's almost like there's one conspiracy after the other, and Antifa is just scratching the surface. All right? He talks about Bill Gates a lot. Africans and Indians worship Bill Gates because he gave us Microsoft. But what is he up to these days? Planning to give us synthetic meat or beef, telling us that cow fat is destroying the atmosphere, that the cows will kill us all. Oh, and that we should stop having children because the earth is getting overpopulated. Let's keep moving. I don't want to go on a tirade. All right, we're going to bypass this. We're going to bypass this. I don't want to. We're already behind. So there are things happening in the world, and we just need to pay attention. All right, so we're at the halfway mark. We've talked about Antifa. We've talked about the funding sources. We've talked about the college professor who is claiming victimhood and claiming he isn't an Antifa member while giving 50% of his proceeds to Antifa. We've seen all of these reports. You've heard me say a bunch of stuff. I need you to react in the chat. All right, guys, you know what to do. Get in the chat. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. We're still going to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize, because that I'm leaving the best for last, because we're just going to sit down and just talk about it. To be honest, there's not much to talk about, but we're going to look at a few things concerning the denial of the Nobel Peace Prize, and I have some thoughts. Okay, I have some thoughts. Now, here we are with LETITIA James. We're changing gears. LETITIA James. I released a video early hours of this morning, and I hope you guys have watched it. If you haven't, please, just when we're done, don't leave now. When we're done, head on over to the channel and take a look at the Letitia James video. I did two, one on her and the reason why it's important that we understand why she's being indicted and why it matters. And then I also did another on CNN, running interference. The hypocrisy of the press has been choking. Like, it is so pungent that it is hard to miss. It's hard to miss. It walks by and you just start choking because it is so thick. Here's one example of the hypocrisy of Democrats. All right, the Democrats get up. They claim that they are the party that that is for law and order, that they never weaponize the justice system, and they do this very deceptive thing. They step out and say, look, Donald Trump is weaponizing the justice system. And then they step out on another platform and say, oh, when we get back into power, we're going to investigate all of these things and we're going to make sure that people are held accountable. That is them doing or saying what they're going to do. When the Democrats tell you who they are, believe them. So we're going to play this video.
You know, if it's just like a question of everybody prosecuting the person who prosecuted them, we will be in endless cycles of political and prosecutorial vengeance.
So what the Democrats want is they want to get away with their crimes. They want to get away with their crimes. They know that they did this for 4 years against Donald Trump, his supporters, and anyone who was aligned with conservative values. Did you know that under the Biden administration, if you stood across the street from an abortion clinic praying, you got arrested, thrown in jail, arraigned in court, and imprisoned? Did you know that? For praying outside an abortion clinic. A woman who was over 70 years old was arrested. She's in a wheelchair. She was arrested and thrown in jail, prosecuted and imprisoned. Over 70 years old with health issues. The Democrats did that to frighten you. To frighten you and to keep you from opening your mouth and saying that what they were doing was wrong. Keep the comments coming. I'm going to answer everything you post in the comment section. So just keep it coming. So this is what the Democrats do. And when you take note of their tactics and they try to sound as virtuous as Jamie Raskin is in this footage, let's not have a circle of prosecutions. It's them trying to disarm you. It's them trying to tell your representatives to calm down. If we prosecute the Democrats, they're going to come back after we're out of office and start prosecuting us. So don't do it to them. Let me tell you, they already started doing it under Joe Biden. They did it under Barack Obama. Remember the family that had their business sued and shut down under Obama because they refused to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple. It started then. And because nothing happened then, it's dragged into the Biden administration and went on steroids. People praying outside an abortion clinic got arrested and thrown in jail. Antifa is burning up Portland, Chicago, California, and they're not in jail. But you get thrown in jail for praying outside an abortion clinic. Oh, calm down. I get fired up when I talk about this particular issue because it is heartbreaking to watch the hypocrisy, heartbreaking to watch the double standards. And when President Trump tries to enforce law and order in these cities, they attack him and attack anyone who supports him and calls them fascist, Nazi, that these people are authoritarians. And when are we going to wake up? Let's keep going.
Of political and prosecutorial vengeance.
There are so many different corrupt sycophants within the Trump administration, including but not limited to within the Department of Justice. Now, these people don't have immunity. And the reality is the statute of limitations is 5 years, and there will be accountability with the next administration, if not before, when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
When the Democrats tell you who they are and what they intend to do, believe them. I'm not fear-mongering. I'm just waking you up if you're asleep. If you're watching and you've been following all of this, let me know what you know. All right? Post your comments in the chat. Let's talk. We're going to go through these stories and then we'll dive into the chat. I'm going to just go through all of this. We have a few minutes. In about 5 or 7 minutes, we'll begin to respond to the chat. All right. We're talking about Letitia James. Letitia James is a hot topic. Democrats are saying that the Trump administration is weaponizing the justice system. In a rare moment of honesty, CNN says this, and I'm shocked, but let's hear exactly what they say about this situation with Letitia James.
The system is not supposed to work.
Jeff, I mean, according to PolitiFact, the day after she was elected in 2018, Letitia James was asked by a community activist if she was going to sue President Trump, and she replied, quote, "Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally." I mean, that's not a great look for somebody who has just been elected or just been campaigning, who hasn't even looked, I guess, at deeply at any evidence.
Well, that's, we live in a system where attorneys general and district attorneys in the United States, unlike almost any other country, are elected officials, are politicians. So they run for office making political statements. That's how our system works.
You see how he's essentially saying it's okay for her to do it. President Trump said the same thing. He's an elected official. Why is it such a problem? Why? If it's okay for her to do it, to weaponize the judge, she is the attorney general, the head officer of law enforcement in New York. You see how they bend over and contort to run interference for insanity.
It's not pretty.
It's insane.
I don't think it's a great system, but there's nothing uncommon about it.
Look at that.
The other point to make, though, is just because she made inappropriate comments, that doesn't mean she should get indicted for fraud years later.
Did she commit fraud? The hypocrisy is strong with this one. Well, I read out the court documents in the video that I did early this morning, so please go watch it. I read out the court documents, and we'll watch to see what happens. I have said I'm not holding my breath to see any of these people go to jail. I don't think anyone is going to jail. I will be pleasantly surprised. Just like I said, Trump would not get the Nobel Peace Prize. I said it. I said I don't think he's going to get it. Because as far as these people are concerned, these activists, because the UN, all of the United Nations departments or bodies, anything that is international facing has been overrun by activists, including the Nobel Prize. The Nobel Prize is no longer a valid institution as far as I'm concerned. Since they did not give President Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, they have lost their integrity. So anyone that gets a Nobel Prize going forward after today, it is just a paperweight. That's all it is.
I mean, we're not supposed to live in a system of that kind of tit for tat. Criminal cases are supposed to stand or fall on their own merits.
David, I mean, there's no evidence that Letitia James's indictment stems from some widespread audit of thousands of mortgage applications.
Okay, so CNN goes back to running interference because they have to say that there's no evidence that it stems from thousands of hours of audits. Well done. Well done. Well, the court document that I read in the video does itemize some of the facts. So we will see what happens. Like I said, I don't think there's any merit to putting stock in these conversations. CNN is downplaying the blatant mortgage fraud committed by Letitia James, claiming it was only, You just heard CNN saying there's no evidence that there was any real research. And then when the real numbers come out, they say it was only $19,000. It was only. When they went after President Trump, they claimed that the fact that there were discrepancies in the valuation of his properties, that was fraud. The banks did their own due diligence and they said, we're going to give this guy the loan. Gave him the loan. He paid back the money. They were happy. LETITIA James insisted that a crime had been committed. A Democrat judge insisted that a crime had been committed. But when it comes to LETITIA James, it's only $19,000, so the fraud of $19,000 makes it's not a big deal. You should be able to lie. But what happened to no one is above the law. Right? So let us watch this and hear the hypocrisy from these guys.
Campaign trail, President Trump promised retribution for his political opponents. Is that what these charges are, or do you think that they have merit?
Well, we'll have to see if they have merit. That's up to a judge and jury to decide later on. What we do know is that these were certainly people who the president had chosen the defendant first before he knew what the crimes were. So usually in the Justice Department, you would find out what a crime is, then figure out who the defendant is. That's usually the general trajectory of criminal prosecutions. What's unusual about this situation is it feels like the president picked the defendants and then essentially ordered his Justice Department, find the crime, I've already chosen the defendants.
And LETITIA James said, we're going to use every law in the book to go after President Trump when he's out of office. So where was she when LETITIA James was saying that? President Trump says these people are corrupt as hell. They have to be investigated. There's something wrong here. They are corrupt as hell. And they found something that that was corrupt. And they're like, okay, yeah, they are corrupt. They engage in corruption. They went after a businessman. They couldn't indict him. Then they had to make up those indictments. Those were literally made up. It was something that was essentially a misdemeanor that was scaled up to a felony. LETITIA James literally had to write certain laws, new laws in New York to make sure that President Trump wasn't protected by presidential immunity. She said it's on record. That is weaponization at a grand scale. The AG of New York was in on it. The House of New York was in on it. They wrote the laws. The governor of New York was in on it. And these were all Democrats. So when she says, like when you hear this nonsense being pandered by CNN and MSNBC, it's annoying. But, we just have to be calm and be decent. Now I know why a bunch of content creators swear on air and curse. You see enough of this and it makes no sense.
So the indictment accuses James of falsely claiming in loan documents that she would use a home she purchased in Virginia as a second residence that allowed her then to get a better interest rate. Instead, they say she used this home as a rental property. Put this into context for us. How often would DOJ prosecute a case like this?
So bank fraud, or what we consider mortgage fraud type cases, are very common. They're, something that most U.S. attorneys' offices around the country do on a routine basis. What's different about this case is it is involving a very small amount of money, right? We're talking, almost $19,000. This is not the kind of case that most U.S. attorneys' offices are bringing. Usually they're looking for, mortgage schemes or things that involve a much higher monetary threshold. What jumps out at me is not the fact that it's a mortgage fraud case, but the amount.
And, you have to put this into the broader context of that now deleted post that Trump.
All right. So let me talk about this very briefly before we go on to the Nobel Prize. It is attitudes like this that cause crime to thrive. You see her approach is, this is a small crime. Why is the federal government going after Letitia James for $19,000? And they use the same principle to be soft on crime in other blue cities. Why should this minority guy who ran a red light be put in jail or punished for his crime? He's a minority. Let's let him go. And then in a few weeks, he runs over someone and kills them. Oh, this person is his first crime, breaking and entering. Let's let him go. Second time, oh, he's mentally unwell. Let's let him go. Eventually, someone doesn't walk away from their encounter with them, and then they go scurrying to the news networks to claim that racism is afoot for bringing up the fact that this person said something racist after they just eliminated someone on a train. It's all hypocrisy and it's all infuriating, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. All right, I'm going to skip all these other stories and we're going to go straight to the Nobel Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee. All right, so I've been peppering the Nobel Peace Prize story throughout the entire live stream. So I've given you some of my thoughts on it. I'm going to read this. This is coming from DC Drano on X. Head on over and follow him. He does some great work. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee awarded it to a Venezuelan peace activist today. And you know what she did? She dedicated it to President Trump. The Nobel Peace Prize, anyway, I'll say what I need to say and move on. You know, I hope you're putting in your comments in the chat. Please, let's go to the chat next. We're going to have a conversation before we end the stream. She knows freedom for the Venezuelan people from narco-terrorism will be due to the efforts of the Trump administration. So the person awarded the Nobel Peace Prize is Maria Corina Machado, or Machado. I don't know how it's pronounced. Machado. Anyone from who speaks Spanish, please let me know how it's pronounced. This recognition of the struggle of all Venezuelans is a boost to conclude our task to conquer freedom. We are on the threshold of victory, and today, more than ever, we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, the peoples of Latin America, and the democratic nations of the world as our principal allies to achieve freedom and democracy. I dedicate this prize to the suffering people of Venezuela and to President Trump for his decisive support of our cause. Here's President Trump talking about this. I don't know. This is from October 9th. I don't know if there's anything pertinent to say here.
I know this, that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months. And I've stopped 8 wars. So that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine.
American patriot Machado.
I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives. And that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us, no, but it's a terrible thing. And we'll get that solved too. But nobody has ever done 8 wars. Nobody's done 8 wars in 30 years, let alone 9 months.
They gave the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I got in the chat, American Patriot. Thank you so much for letting me know how her name is pronounced. It's Machado. Maria Corina Machado. Thank you so much, American Patriot. I appreciate that. So, Barack Obama got awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, but he dropped 26,171 bombs in 1 year. Okay, that's Barack Obama. And President Trump ended 8 wars in 1 year. Imagine that. The Nobel Peace Prize is useless right now. All right? I hereby say it is useless. Do you agree? Let me know in the chat. There was a time when being awarded the Nobel Prize meant something. Right now, it means nothing. I'm going to so go over to Maria's X account, like the post, okay? I'm zooming into her handles. Please go over to her account and like the post. All right, please, those of you who are still here, if you haven't yet done so, like the stream, share the stream. Please help us reach more people. We stream every weekday going forward at this time of the day, so please help us out. All right, so I'm heading to the chat. All right, I have Rona Schwartz. Also, let me know where you're watching from. It helps out a whole lot to know where you're watching from. Have you checked out Karlin Boysenko's work? She has gone undercover with Antifa. Okay, let's see if we can find her. Hang on. Karlin. All right. Maybe the next stream, I'm going to research her work. Anti-communist cult leader. Karlin Boysenko. I think this is her. Okay, follow. I have not. Thank you for waking me up to her. I'm finding new voices every other day with what I'm doing on the live stream. Yes, Bruce W. says the Nobel Peace Prize is irrelevant. Bruce W., thank you for the chat. Look, I've said, like this week, I have gone on a tirade against the UN. The UN right now is useless. It's completely useless because they haven't done what they were supposed to do. The reason why the UN was put in place was to help make sure that the world lives in peace. But when was the last time they successfully negotiated peace and kept wars from happening? Decades, possibly over 50 years now. They haven't successfully done their job. Why are they here? Why are they around? Why are countries still funding the UN? Why? Can someone let me know in the chat what you think is going on with the UN? They're useless. And now the Nobel Prize has followed. The Nobel Prize has followed because as far as I'm concerned, them not giving the Nobel Prize to President Trump after ending 8 wars in less than 9 months. But they were happy to give it to Barack Obama for doing none of that. They are basically an activist woke organization. And like I said, most of these organizations have been infiltrated by woke ideology. All right, so we're heading to the end of the stream. If you have a comment, question, please put it in the chat. I'm going to be looking at the poll. I asked a question on the main channel. I asked the question, was Trump ever going to get the Nobel Peace Prize? And the main channel said, no. Yeah, you guys knew what was up. And then on the backup channel, I had a yes there. All right. So to be honest, if we're honest with each other, we all knew that wasn't happening. Because here's what would happen. Once President Trump gets awarded the Nobel Prize, there'll be global uprising of all of the anti-fascists. And then they would call out all of the leaders. So even if the members of the Nobel Committee are not woke or are not activists, they are scared of what could happen. That's what Antifa is. They are the intimidation arm of the far left. Whatever country you live in, wherever there's a far left, that is Antifa. Funded by the WEF, funded by the Open Society Association or organization being run by George Soros. So they are scared for their lives. So they have to comply. If they gave Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, that would have validated Donald Trump's work. Donald Trump just brokered a peace deal. All of the people all over the world who have been having these Free Palestine protests, how come they never came up to say, wow, we've been asking for Palestine to be freed and saved. President Trump did so. We celebrate him. No, they would not do that. They wouldn't. It means that everything you see is fake. All the protests are fake. All the outrage is fake. It's curated, and it only exists to push a leftist agenda. President Trump could hang the moon, and he would still be the enemy. That shows that you're dealing with hypocrites and people who cannot tell the truth. All right, so we're wrapping up. Nobel is irrelevant, Bruce W. Thank you for saying that. Please, if you're watching and you haven't put anything in the chat, please, come on, guys. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, let me know your thoughts. All right, so we're wrapping up. Now, before we go, I would like you to consider getting the travel mug, the Heavens Economy travel mug. This is something that I want to share with you because we're living in a world that is increasingly becoming very difficult to survive in. And many times you look at the economy and you're worried. So if you're one of those that are concerned about the economy, get the Heavens Economy, I Connect to Heavens Economy travel mug. So that when you use it, you remind yourself that God can meet your needs. Okay, so the link is in the description of the show. And if you can and if you want to, you can please support the show by using the link in the description of the live stream. There's a link there to support the show financially. There's also other ways to support us by becoming a member of the channel. There's a link there to do so. I want to do more of this every day. We're doing this at 4 p.m. every weekday, and I would love to have you here. Thank you. I'm going to do a roll call. Guys, if you're watching and you haven't put a comment in the chat, I want to do a roll call. I just want to say hi to all of you. So just say where you're watching from. I just want to call you out and celebrate you. Rona Schwartz, thank you so much for the first comment. American Patriot, thank you for teaching me how to pronounce the Nobel Peace Prize winner's name. It's Spanish, and I needed some way to pronounce it. Bruce W, thank you for chiming in on the Nobel Prize being irrelevant. All right, so I'm going to wait for a few seconds. I need those of you. Okay, I guess a bunch of you are watching from a screen or something. But if you're not, just chime in. We're wrapping up the live stream. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I'll see you on Monday. Oh yes, I haven't talked about the super chat. If you're watching on the backup channel, you won't be able to do a super chat. That channel isn't monetized just yet. But we do have monetization on the main channel. So if you want to leave a super chat, you're going to have to head on over to the main channel. The main channel is at Crossroads IRL. Crossroads IRL, spelled the right way. Crossroads IRL. If you want to leave a super chat, it helps us keep the channel independent and keeps us going. Thank you so much. Let's know what you loved the most about this live stream. We're going to do more of it. What did you like the most about this live stream? I want to give you value so that you can, every time you come on, you get exactly what you need. So let me know what you liked about the live stream so that we can continue preparing the live stream to work the way it did today. Do you like the way we went through the stories? We powered through the stories and kept it short. Let me know in the comments. Did you like the topics? Were the topics relevant? Were the topics, the type of thing you want to hear? I need to know. Just give me a hint in the chat, and just help us do a better job. at serving you. And you like the time of day? We moved it from noon to 5 p.m. ADT, and I think the timing did work. I think it did. So thank you so much for being a part of this live stream. We're keeping it at an hour. We're 5 minutes over the hour mark. The next live stream will be on Monday, same time on Monday, and I hope to see you then. Thank you so much, and see you on Monday, and God bless you.